Welcome to Chik, the podcast where the girl with many titles talks about life, the good and the bad, and everything around it. We're going to sit, chat, share life stories and experiences, from business to relationship. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Chik podcast. This week I am joined by Sylvie. Hello.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Tired, but not too bad.
Oh, that's good. To be actually saying that though, it is very early on in the week, so to be tired, yeah, need a rest.
Yeah, exactly. We need that 3-day week. What is it?
Yeah.
Four-day week has been announced.
You know what? This 4-day week was announced, and I was like, why could this not have been announced when I didn't work for myself? I'm happy for everyone, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, so I now need to try and get to like a 3-day week just so I feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Wild. Okay, so we'll get straight into it. I'll let you introduce yourself, and then I will get you to answer your either problem of the week or your tip of the week, so you can just merge that all together. So tell us what you do. Who are you? Where are you based?
Sure. So my name is Sylvie and I am based in the UK in Hertfordshire, and I'm a strategic estates manager. And what that is essentially project management. I work in construction/property. So my background has always been in property.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. And working for the NHS, but also I've done sort of private sector stuff previously. In the evenings and on weekends, I also have my own business, which is called Career Minded Circles. And essentially what that is working with job seekers as well as professionals just looking to advance and progress their careers. So yeah, we could talk about that in a bit more detail later, I'm sure. Definitely. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Love it. Okay, so then do you have a tip of the week or have you got a challenge of the week?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I guess it's a bit of both. I'll do both.
Go on.
That's allowed.
Yeah.
So I think we've started off with me saying, oh God, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I think that is, and it's only a Monday, but I think it's that before we've started, I think I'd mentioned to you that it's probably the busiest year that I've had as an adult, which sounds quite dramatic, but really I've sat down and sort of looked at some of your questions before we've come on here to just sort of reflect, and I've then reflected over the whole year. And I think the last time that I actually wasn't really properly doing anything was like the 13th of February.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's trying to make sure for me that I don't overload myself is something that I've continued to struggle with. But I think only because I've introduced this, like obviously my business, I'm trying to do loads of that. Obviously I've got my 9 to 5. I think that has been my biggest challenge. So yeah, in terms of what would I say, I've just realized, to be honest, sometimes say no. Sometimes say no, and it's okay to say no. I'm someone that usually feels bad when I say no, but I'm realizing like that's not sustainable. Just say no if you can't do something. And I've said no to 3 people today in work.
Look at you.
It's a little win.
Yeah. Can we give you a little clap for that? Love that. So do you know what? Actually, that's really funny because I think my challenge of the week. So I'm currently looking at, like, I'm really into manifestation and like looking at 2023. What do I want that to look like? And I feel like where you currently are in terms of like boundaries, learning to say no. It's where I was earlier in the year, but I never really sat and reflected on it. And now I'm looking at the end of the year and looking at where I want to be. So I had one of my clients that I work with, Josh Keegan. He was on the podcast recently, and he asked, like, what do you want your life to look like? So I've really been like, it's in my mind because, especially, right, you're a Zambian woman. You know exactly what it's like. No one else is going to understand this unless you are a daughter from an immigrant family. But when you are us, your life is dedicated to other people. So in general, not even in like a horrible way. So it's really difficult to know how to set boundaries, and that then goes over into work, into personal life, into so many places where I found that actually my challenge is now looking at, now I've become better at setting boundaries and saying no, even to my parents, which is huge. I'm now looking at next year going,
Yes.
what do I actually want my life to look like next year? And it's me that's choosing.
Yeah.
That's me freaking me out so much.
Yes.
Now it's like, okay, but who am
Yeah.
I?
Yeah.
Can I do what I want to do? And I'm not bothered that other people are upset with that. It's hard.
Yes. Yes. No, like 100% touching on like the culture thing. It's so big. I remember during Black History Month, we had a like all staff call and culture came up. A lot of us definitely bring in how we are at home with our culture, with our family, with our friends into the workplace. And sometimes it's not appropriate. The fact that I'm so proud of myself for saying no. Like, I feel like maybe some people who are from other cultures would just say no and they move on and it's fine. But also, I feel like the people I've said no to have understood why I've said no. Part of it was I'm wrapping up for the Christmas break. I won't be back until X, Y, and Z. And they're like, absolutely fine. So I think most of the time we're actually more worried about someone's reaction when in actuality it's most likely going to be fine. And then if it's not going to be fine, it's learning how to address and to, as you say, set those boundaries to, you know, why if unless I'm being completely unrealistic and unreasonable, then no one's going to have a problem with it. Exactly. So yeah, for sure.
Do you know what? It's funny because not only is it a mindset, it is about mindset, but then kind of working this into what you do with career-minded circles. So I'll get you to explain a bit more about that and like where that came from. I think what stands out there is the fact that in the workplace we are taking our culture with us, and when you, like, for example, if you already don't feel understood in your own culture, and speaking from my own experience, I am the firstborn daughter. I'm used to being in charge. I'm used to doing so much, and I do get so much love from my family and friends, but like I'm such an independent person that I don't know, like I found it really difficult to learn how to ask for help. So I would go into work wanting colleagues to understand me, thinking that again, because I give my all in what I'm doing, because I want to grow my career, these people are going to understand me. They're going to appreciate me. That they're going to give me back views, and then they wouldn't do that, and I'd be like, what is going on? I'd be really upset. I'd be really frustrated, and I've always said 9 to 5 didn't suit me, but my managers were my people where I'd have to, like, they'd just allow me to change my 9 to 5 to suit me because they knew I could do work. But I've always struggled in what does that look like with your career. So yeah, tell us about career-minded circles and just everything, like, and any tips you'd have for anyone like us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, career-minded circles, we'll start with the name because a lot of people sometimes go, what's with the name? Obviously, the career bit is very, very obvious. But like I said, job seekers or not sometimes it's not. And my clients aren't always looking for a job, but sometimes they're looking to progress in the company that they're in. They love the company that they're in, but they just feel stuck, or maybe they don't even know if they should switch careers. So it's all of that. It's a bit of coaching, a bit of direction and career development. The name, Career Minded Circles, the minded bit is all about mindfulness. Whether you're looking for a job or whether you are already in a job, we've just touched on saying no when you've got too much on your plate. It's those little things that, especially if you are from a certain culture, how are you presenting yourself? How are you showing up at work? But also, if I'm working with a job seeker, sometimes it's the little things that won't get you a job. So, for example, again, how are you presenting yourself? If you're not coming across as, you know, there's loads of situational questions that they ask in interviews. How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with different priorities? It's making sure that you're coming across in that like confident way, but also you can stand up for yourself. So I try to combine the two things basically in my business: the mindful side, but also the, we are professionals, we're at work to work, that's what we're being paid for. But also it's okay to say no, it's okay to say maybe not now, but I can help on the next project, etc. So that's what career minded circles is about, really. And then of course there's like the technical side of it, the writing CVs, but really I do try to combine the two things. I really think, and the reason I started career minded circles, to be honest, is I remember when I graduated 2010, not really having someone to just talk to. Like job hunting is not, it's not easy. And like we go from school, we know you have to get a job when you finish school, you finish college, uni, whatever it is you're doing. But no one really goes through the process of like, you might apply for a job, but you might not hear back. You might apply for 50, but you might not hear back, or you might think you've done really well. But also like just overcoming some of those challenges, but also celebrating the wins. It's such a big thing. When I look back, by the time I was 23, 24, when I look back now, I'm like, wow, I should have really given myself grace. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what career minded circles is about and what we're doing. Very, very, very focused on making sure that we're not just drowning in the corporate world.
Yeah. Do you know what? I love the way that you've even broken it down, because I suppose the problems you were having back in 2010 are still issues. If anything, it's even more difficult sometimes now, because you kind of, like, I remember during the pandemic, and yours going to be made redundant, and there was someone that I kind of know of, like I'd worked with a brand and had known someone through this brand, and they were looking for someone like freelancing to do some social media work, and I was like, I'm going to be a shoo-in for this. Like, I've got no problems whatsoever. And luckily, again, because it was kind of someone that I knew of, I eventually didn't hear anything back, and I was like, okay, I just wanted to check, like, what's going on? Because I know I could do this job, I know I'd be great, and I can know, like, we know each other kind of. And basically saying within 2 days they had more than 200 applicants, and they were like, we literally just had to stop. And so when you sent yours, you were nowhere near the first 200 applicants, so it was nothing to do with you. It was just that we're in an economy where loads of people want the same jobs. So I suppose everything that you're currently talking about that you did in 2010 is still there now. Like, what would your advice be now for anyone trying?
To be honest, what you've touched on, sometimes it isn't personal. And I think it's remembering like the recruitment process it's a process. There is a process that needs to be followed. Sometimes they even say right at the bottom, if we receive too many applicants, we reserve the right to like basically stop looking. So it's definitely remembering whatever stage you're at, whether you've interviewed or you've just submitted your application, that unless it isn't personal. It's just people are doing their jobs, recruiters are doing their jobs, but of course you then also have the recruiters who do just ghost you. There is that. It's also remembering some people are not professionals. There is no need to, especially in this day and age where things are automated. If you're working with companies that are professional, they will do an automated type of email where they can send an email to 1,000 people if they had to say thank you for your application. No one likes that automated copy and paste email, but at least you've heard something. So I guess my advice is it's easier said than done, but definitely not taking it personal, because it's all part of a learning process as well, learning curve, especially the further you go into it. Once you've done your job interviews, if you don't get it, sure, we all want to hear that, congratulations, you've got the job, but you will know, especially if you work like in a technical field such as mine, like when we're talking about construction and properties and building, there's legislation, there's laws. I remember back in the days, again, when I started, I did a ton of interviews as well, but by the time you've done your third one, if you didn't get it, you know what types of questions you're going to be asked, what the technicalities are. So I think the phrase that I see a lot is, a job rejection isn't really a rejection. Look at it as a redirection. Cliche as it is, but
it's true. Yeah, it's so true.
It's a mindset thing as well.
Really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming up to halfway, so I'm going to cut you off there because I've got so many questions for you. But right, so how are you actually doing? How is life? Obviously, getting ready for Christmas and the New Year, and well, by the time this comes out, it will be the New Year. But yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. How do you want me to answer this? As if it's the new year or
No, just
now?
as it is now. Yeah.
As it is now. As it is now, I'm honestly, physically, I'm good.
Yeah.
Mentally, I've been better.
Mm.
That's the honest answer. Mentally, I've been better. Like I say, I've been stressed with work, stressed with like family situations. I've learned a lot in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
I've done like loads of meditations, loads of like, I can't remember what you said, if it's like self healing type of books. I'm reading all of that. I'm a Christian, but I also like take all of that into account, but also I'm asking more questions,
Yeah.
which doesn't necessarily, it didn't necessarily come to me naturally,
Yeah.
again because of cultural reasons, but because I've done a little bit of pushback,
Yeah.
There are consequences to like deviating from the norm. So
Yeah.
I think that for me it affects you up here when you're like, okay, I'm no longer going to abandon myself, abandon my needs. I'm going to, as you said, what do I want?
Yeah.
What do I want as a person? And it's not selfishness, but yeah, it's taken its toll in terms of just friends, family, work.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing that everyone actually around me is better for it because I'm not over promising and under delivering, which is a classic project management word, but it can it can happen in real life as well. Like people will be more, I've realized people will be more upset with me if I say, yeah, I'll go to lunch with you and then I cancel last minute. No one wants that kind of friend. So there's been a bit of that. But in terms of how am I'm actually good because what I'm grateful for is I've got like a support network that really is actually supportive. And my mom, my sister, my fiance, all my friends are really great. So that's really good.
Oh, that's good. I love that for you. And do you know what? I think even just
Thank
have
you.
you reflect on where things are, I think it's very clear that even when things are difficult, like you've pulled out so many positives. And and do you know what? Because this is why I love doing the podcast because I get to have this same check-in every week and to see, okay, how am I doing? How are things going?
Yeah.
Like I'm not hidden at all like how difficult my mental health journey's been, especially the past couple of years. But I'm starting to find more and more that as each week goes on, I'm focusing on more and more of the positives. And I think I'm in like it was funny because before we came on here, my cousin messaged me and he's just going through just a bit of a frustrating time. That's the best way to put it. And he just wanted to rant a little bit, and then he said, "Okay, I'm going to call you and we'll chat." But I just wanted to get this out of the way so I could find out how you are. Yeah, one was saying that like you seemed really happy the last time you were there, and I was like, do you know what? I actually am because I'm starting to realize that, especially now I'm not properly in therapy every week anymore. Although I could go back at any time, I'm in such a better space that even when things do pop up and I feel like it's difficult, I've got a better system of how I manage that. So whether I turn to G, whether I turn to my parents, whether I turn to my brother, but even in setting those boundaries, like I've really learned that I need time alone. And no offense to mum and dad, I love my mum and dad so much. I know they'd want me to be there 24/7, 365 days a year. But the one that stops me in our relationship is saying no to them. I'm still finding it really difficult. And don't get me wrong, it's so hard. It is because you do feel like you're letting people down. But one thing I realized was that for me, and it freaked me out because I realized that culture has and religion, because we're brought up with a mixture of culture and religion at the same time, it's so intertwined into our subconscious and who we are that I was making decisions thinking I was making them. And my brother would call me out like, is this you making this decision or are you doing it because of cultural expectations?
Yeah.
I honestly went through a period where I'd have to call my brother or message him to be like, right, I've been presented with this opportunity or this is going on. This is
Yeah.
how I'm going to answer or this is what I'm going to do. And he'd be like, yes, that's you, or no, you're pandering to someone else. And I
Yeah.
obviously had to do that for a few months. And now I'm like, I can make decisions. I'm trusting myself more to go,
Yeah.
okay, even if you are being a bit selfish, it's okay because, like you said before, when you make those difficult decisions, people might feel like they're being let down, but ultimately, it actually does help you. It helps your
Yeah.
relationships because you're not
Yeah.
overthinking. So, yeah, I think I'm in a really good place where yes, things are stressful, but I'm just more comfortable
Yeah.
with things for me and like saying yes for me, saying no for me rather than other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember, this is slightly off topic, on topic. I remember someone in my previous job about 4 years ago. She was a really good friend of mine. I still talk to her now and then. Colleague. She was a colleague, acquaintance, shall we call it?
Yeah.
She was like of Indian background. And I remember her saying, obviously like Indians as well say, oh, auntie, and like that sort of respect, which we do in our culture. And I remember she was sat next to me, and I said someone had come up to her. It was another Indian lady, who was much older than her, but in the work context, this younger woman was like a higher grade, a higher position than the lady. And like she actually said to her, yes, auntie, at one point. And I was like, we just had a little chat, and she was like, oh my gosh, did you notice that I just said, okay, auntie, blah, blah, blah. And she was like being a little bit demanding, to be fair. So it was like, it's really hard for me to say no to her, even though I am, by all intents and purposes, her superior. But
Yeah.
I ended up saying, yes, auntie. And I was like, yeah, I'm never going to forget that.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how she ended up dealing with it, but absolutely. And then, of course, yeah, so she told me, like, her culture, obviously, you respect your elders, religion, her religion said respect your elders as well. So how are you just going to be like, no, sorry, can't do
Yeah.
that, Susan?
Yeah.
Off you go. Like, there's none of that.
Especially
So,
when
yeah.
it's down to your subconscious because you're not actively thinking about it and it makes you so uncomfortable. So it's like, and this is where, like, I love having these conversations because you do start to think about, and well, I suppose in my mind, I'm thinking, it makes me laugh because you're now the third person I've had on the podcast that's related to property as well, and the second that's like a business coach or like a coach for careers. And I find that my life and in terms of synergy,
Yeah.
obviously the people I've chosen to have on the podcast are because you guys are people that inspire me, that you do things that I look at and I just think, love this, it does something for me. But isn't it funny how I gravitate around similar types of people. I find
Yeah.
comfort in similar types of people. But I think that's where now I've been able to take a step back and look at who do I surround myself with, even if it's just online and scrolling and liking people's stuff. But how does that
Yeah.
then inform the decisions that because again, it's not a conscious decision that I've made that I'm only going to have people that are involved in property. It's just going to be black women. It's just going to be this or that.
Yeah.
And yet here I am
Yeah.
making subconscious decisions that you then can't lie. That obviously when you are making other decisions, you don't even know when you are doing things. So yeah, it's just I find it so fascinating.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And I'm grateful actually that I still can't remember now if we've even met in person because I feel like we've had
I
so many
know.
interactions.
Yeah, probably some
Almost like,
party at some year.
yeah, probably. But yeah, no, I'm grateful as well for those like I am challenged to think differently,
Yeah,
whether it's by people within my community, within
yeah,
my culture, or outside of my culture. It's important. It's important to have people that think like you and people that don't think like you because you really
exactly.
start to say, yeah,
Yeah,
is it, as you've said, is it me making this decision or is this my upbringing?
yeah,
Is it because I think mum's going to be disappointed in this decision and the rest of it? So
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
And I think even when you touched before about like it's about your mindset, because I definitely do think that the people I've had on so far, in terms of where my
Mm,
mindset's going and how I want next year to be, that's this new version of me. This is me as I'm trying to learn who I kind of now am. So I suppose my
Yep.
next question to you is, knowing how difficult it is to juggle culture, to juggle a relationship as being mixed, to juggle
Yeah.
work, your side hustles, everything else. Like, how do you do it?
I'm tired just hearing you say all of I'm tired just hearing you say all of that. In all honesty, going back to the fact that this has been my busiest year of my adult life,
Yeah.
how have I done it? I think I actually just finished a call with my sister,
Yeah.
who's just had a baby. You know, we're all
Oh,
really excited. Oh, thank you. So I'm like a new auntie, and I was like, oh wow, I'm an auntie. That's an extra responsibility I have. I have to. But
yeah,
like, yeah, we were just talking, and I said to her, obviously motherhood
yeah,
has, you know, we all know what motherhood is and the
yeah,
challenges, but also the joy that comes with that. And I just said to her, literally before I got on this, is the last voice note that I've sent. And I said, one day at a time. She was like, oh, this is so exciting. Um, but at the same time, and I was like, just, and she's also had like some interviews and she's worked, she's obviously on like maternity, she's juggling a whole lot of things.
yeah,
And I was like, I can't give you advice on what it's like to be a mum. I'm not a mum, I've never
yeah,
been, but I do know one day at a time. And that's really how I've managed this year, to be honest. I would say probably like June to September. Um, is when it was like super busy, but I hadn't realized at the time of booking earlier on in the year, and I was cramming everything into that. So
yeah,
like just maybe a bit more forward thinking.
mm,
Um and yeah, two, three things that you're committing to. And I want to make sure that I'm giving everything I'm doing, like giving everything I'm doing and saying yes to 100%.
yeah,
So I've just, yeah, I've taken it one day at a time. Like this week, last week was also, it was like even just down to like, I need to go get my hair braided.
yeah,
You know, that in itself is like, right, I've got to wash my hair before that, I've got to go pick the hair, I've got to like do this, do that. It's just, and then I was like, right, next week I'm doing filming, I have to do some work, I've got some
yeah,
clients. Just, I was like, no, it's in the diary. I know what I'm doing on
yeah,
Monday. Like I literally just took it by the day. I
yeah.
think
That's smart.
um yeah, whether or not that is how I should be doing it, that's how I've managed so far. But I think just a bit more planning maybe for my 2023.
Yeah,
But I think just also not being hard on myself.
yeah. I was just
Um
about to say that as well. Yeah,
not being hard on myself. Like I'm such, you know, this whole type A, type B personality. And you know, if you want to like use those phrases and terms,
yeah,
and like the perfectionist type of personality is definitely me.
yeah,
I'm very much like in my day job and very much like the person that sets the agenda.
yeah,
I don't have meetings without an agenda.
yeah,
And sometimes life doesn't work that way.
yeah,
So when I haven't managed to set an agenda, I've sort of been like, oh, you didn't set an agenda. It's okay
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah, go easy,
Mm,
especially when you know that you're actually trying really
yeah,
hard.
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I keep getting the advice, if you're like, if a friend came to you or like your sibling came to you and said what you're saying, would you speak
Mm,
to them the same way? And I keep having that in the back of my mind because I'm like, I think what I
yeah.
resonate so much with the way that like your life is shaped isn't the fact that you juggle so much, but when you're so used to doing that, it's a lot more
Yeah.
difficult to just appreciate that you already achieved so much more than other people would do in a week, and you're doing some of that stuff in a day. Never mind what happens within a
Yeah.
week, within 6 months, within a year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
ultimately, if you were to sit there and speak to your inner child and just say, and this is something I've honestly started doing, I sometimes just say to my inner
Mm,
child, do you know what? Well done. We've got this. We're doing well. We're doing
yeah.
okay. We're not like, we're going to
Yeah.
survive this. And I'm finding that the more I
Yeah.
start to do that, the more I'm like, okay, even if, because I think for me as well, and especially when you work for yourself and you're trying to find that balance between what does family life look like, what does work life look like, what does everything look like, and you're the person that's choosing that. you have a world to
Mm.
choose from, and all those options just make
Yeah,
it more overwhelming because you're then looking at what society does. You're looking at people working 9 to 5s. You're looking at how other people shape their lives, and you go, okay, well, this is what looks right. But actually, like you said before, but if it's working for you, then there's no reason in questioning why that's working. Just accept it's working, keep
absolutely.
going until ultimately it doesn't like work anymore, or it keeps working rather than like, because I feel like we constantly try and like solve a problem sometimes that isn't there, and maybe
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
to look a particular way, but it'll never be perfect.
No, no, exactly. And you had mentioned asking for help earlier. That is one that I think our personalities are quite similar in that
Yeah,
way. I'm definitely like, self-sufficient, but sometimes it's to my detriment. So yeah, ask for help as well. Just to add on to everything you've just
yeah,
said. Ask for help if you can.
so true. Or
Um,
you can just accept and help, actually, because this is going to lead into, because we're going to be wrapping up in a sec. This one's going to
yeah,
lead to my win of the week. So I'll let
yeah.
you say your win of the week first, and then yeah, and I'll do mine.
Sure. Let me have a quick little think. Win of the week.
Mm,
I think I think just not being hard on myself. We've just touched on that. Like I'm very much like I'm 100% a methodical person. Like I don't necessarily do it like on a Sunday or on a Monday, and I don't necessarily always write it down, but I have a plan, even if it's in
yeah,
my head and I'm ticking it off.
yeah,
But like I'm just proud of I think my biggest moment, my little win is that whether I ticked the plan off and having completed everything, or maybe it was just two or three, I wasn't hard on myself. I clapped for myself that I did it. And also, a lot of this is in relation to my own business that I'm running. The NHS is a whole different thing. There's a
yeah,
whole set of procedures with what I'm doing with my 9 to 5, but this is an additional thing I have to tell myself sometimes. This is your own business.
yeah.
You're setting the times that you're having meetings with
Exactly.
clients. If it doesn't work, and like you and I had to reschedule because I had to travel,
Yeah,
it's like, again, rather than like tell you I can't do it like one day before, just say, would you mind?
yeah,
So yeah, that's my biggest. It's okay to like vary plans.
yeah.
And I have managed to do that this week without upsetting anyone or myself.
Love it. See, it's yourself even more. That's what I'm giving you the clap for. Love it. Just,
Thanks.
but mine would be because I still find it really hard to ask for help. So I
Yeah.
thought, let me take it a step back. And when people offer to help, so I'm at, like,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is, start practicing yes. And I've noticed that, especially with my partner, like my partner is one of the kindest people I've ever met. To the point where like we'll be sat and we might be eating or doing something. I might flinch to like get up and get a drink or to do anything. And he
Yeah.
always straight up. And normally I'm like, no, no, no. And recently I've been like, do you know what? Just allow him, if he wants to do something for you and he's literally
Yeah.
offering, stop saying no, you've got it. We like, you know, you've got it. You know that you can do anything in your life, but allow
Yeah.
him to do it and see what that's like. And I've noticed
Yeah.
that not only is it making me happy to like allow him to do that, but it puts a smile on his face. But then
Yeah.
ultimately then makes me feel happy because then I'm like, okay, how can I push this like the next level where, because my thing is I want to be able to go out and literally say, okay, this is what I want out of life and I'm going to get it and I'm going to talk to whoever I need to talk to. I'm going to be unapologetic. But I can
Yeah.
see that with these little small steps, if I can do this and feel comfortable, by the time it comes
Mm,
next year, like looking to get my bag, looking to be more financially stable and looking to get other people to work with, I'm going to be so unapologetic in how I do it because, again, I know that I'm not doing things in like a horrible way or to be selfish or whatever else.
yeah.
If I can start
Yeah.
practicing little things at home and it's fine, ultimately, whenever anyone
Yeah.
does something that might upset me or makes me feel some type of way, I'll be able to remember
Yeah.
that actually maybe they're just not my type of person or something's gone wrong and I'll take it less personally, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
this is my win.
Oh, amazing. I found this to be so therapeutic.
Yeah, and that, do you know what? And this is
Just
why I love to do this because I do just want it to be a general conversation. But like I said, I've chosen the people I've chosen so far because you inspire me, and there are things that you do, and I think sometimes, especially as Black women, especially as women, we
Yeah,
forget we do so much. We forget we juggle so much, and just to sit and have that little bit of time to reflect and to talk to someone,
yeah,
it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not doing too badly.
yeah. It's not just me. And it's like taking on, I know that in about 2 months or even a week or even 2 days from now, I'd be like, oh, what Chikomo said, then
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
I can use that as well. I can use
yeah,
that in my own personal life. And like always it comes back round full circle.
exactly. Yeah. And you know what? Thanks so much for being on. I've honestly really enjoyed this. I know, like, obviously, this is before Christmas, but when people do watch it, it'll be the new year. So if
Yeah.
you're looking to set new goals for your business, for life, for your career, then we're going to have all the links and everything that you'll need below, wherever you're listening to it, watching it. But yeah, I really
Yeah.
hope everyone has a great Christmas, a great new year, and 2023 is an amazing year because, well, yeah, the world's our oyster. So thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting me, Chikumo. I had a great time, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be catching up for sure in 2022.
2023.
2023.
Yeah,
We'll
this
be
is that
catching up for
year.
sure, and we'll definitely be catching up in 2023. Yes. And yeah, no, absolutely, really amazing. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
I
Take
enjoyed it.
care.